Hello and welcome to this taste of Rave Mandala 360. So this video is intended to show you what each class of Rave Mandala 360 will be like. Today I'm just using gate 11 as an example. Since it's not in front of a live body of students, I've omitted the breaks for Q&A, but please know that there will be plenty of time for questions and discussion in the live classes, as well as the private Facebook group or Discord channel that we'll be sharing together over the course of the year. So in the group, I'll have regular contemplations about each gate to further deepen your understanding after the live class. So a little background on this course. My manifestor friend Denise initiated me into this course, but essentially the idea for it stemmed from a practice I did back in 2018, where I tracked the sun moving through each gate in the wheel over the course of a year. Denise met me in that group and we've become friends over the years, and it's been something we've talked about, recreating that, off and on throughout the years. But by pacing my focus and learning of each gate over the course of a year, I really got to embody them and learn about them intimately, which in turn helped me become a more skillful, nuanced analyst. And it also opened my eyes up to how I was truly affected by the transit conditioning. So whether you're already an analyst, on the path to becoming an analyst, and want to deepen your understanding, or just someone who appreciates human design knowledge and how it can support your individuation, see if this course is correct for you. So let's start with gate 11, the gate of peace and of war, white magic, and ideas that fuel ideologies and belief systems. You'll notice here that this image shows many famous dictators, which is fitting for the typical expression of gate 11 in the not-self world. Western society, especially America, idolizes idealists that will stop at nothing to materialize their vision. But it doesn't work like we think, right? Trying to make our own ideas happen is a fool's errand because the mind can't allocate energy to make them happen, right? Ideas are here to be recognized as they're part of a projected channel and to be shared as they're part of collective circuitry. What the body graph reveals is that ideas and ideals are just meant to be shared with others to potentially stimulate them in gate 56, right? They reflect past experiences that we've already processed and made sense of in the channel of abstraction. They represent an inner vision, best told as a story. Acting on those ideas and ideals is then up to the receiver's inner authority. The body graph also reveals that ideals are connected to the sense we've made from the oppression and confusion of our past in gate 47. That is the process starting with the channel of abstraction. And because ideals are in collective circuitry, we tend to want to implement them on humanity at large. But when ideals are systematized for the collective, they aren't very ideal anymore, right? They become another form of oppression rather than a source of stimulation, because the collective doesn't value individuality and mutation. So it can't impose beliefs and laws that truly serve the well-being of all. Gate 11 is also the gate of war and peace. You see, what's interesting is the very act of trying to change the world reflects a person not at home within themselves, which is why such idealists are usually tyrannical. When our body becomes a scary place to live, we can misdirect our attention away from the inner source of our own pain and instead try to fix the outside world, even ruthlessly, ideologically, mandating the collective conforms to our ideals or else. So all idealists really want is to feel peaceful within themselves. And when they don't know how, because the mind can't possibly know, they create war in the collective, all in the name of peace. So acceptance of the discomforts and absurdities of life is not very idealistic, but it is healthy. And it starts with directing our attention inward rather than outward. The world doesn't need any ideals mentally imposed. Just look around at what that's done. When the collective falls under the spell of smooth-talking idealists, it's individuals that pay. So let's unpack what I just shared about gate 11 with a look at the context it's situated within in the body graph. That context being the fact that it's a collective ajna gate, right, within the abstract circuit, and then more specifically within the stream of sensing. You'll also note the line keynotes here, which we would explore together in the group container. So given that 11 is a collective abstract circuit gate, we know that these ideas and ideals are meant for sharing. Everything with the abstract circuit is about immersing yourself in life experiences for their own sake, right? Expectations for an abstract person are a trap, as life rarely fulfills our expectations. We're not meant to be predicting the future as we do in the logical circuit. Right? These life experiences occur cyclically and have a beginning, middle, and end structure. And only when they're over can you look back and find meaning and make sense of them, and then pass those lessons on to others through stories or codify them into belief systems. The storytelling and codification happens in the channel of curiosity that gate 11 is a part of. We'll talk more about that channel in a moment. Gate 11 is also in the stream of sensing, which entails the channel of abstraction and the channel of curiosity. The channel of abstraction sees their past experiences moving through a disorganized stream of consciousness, much like a movie trailer that jumps from scene to scene. Right? Eventually, confusion in gate 64 yields to a realization in the 47 in its own timing about what that past experience was all about. That realization then gets passed over to the 11, where it gets packaged into ideas and ideals, seeking a stimulating outlet in gate 56, or seeking to become fodder for a belief system or ideology. This whole stream correlates with inner vision cognition, which is an intelligence tapped into when the outward gaze softens or the eyes are closed, and the person goes inward to be guided by a visual in their mind's eye. Similarly, people with inner vision are storytellers. They talk about the past in order to convey a meaningful picture to someone else. Essentially, it's, do you see what I see through this story? And bear in mind, the biological correlate here is the left eye. It's the visual memory of the left eye. And the left eye doesn't see everything. Because gate 11 is in the abstract circuit, it's influenced by the emotional wave that colors the entire abstract circuit. So the left eye sees what's there in the wave at that moment, right? If you have gate 11 and not the 17, which is the right eye, then you'll leave many things out of your descriptions of experiences. Essentially, it's the awareness to visualize a realization or not. So gate 11 is part of the channel of curiosity, a design of a seeker. People with the channel of curiosity can consistently express their mind by sharing their ideas and ideals through stimulating stories. This is a projected channel. So when people with this channel are invited to speak and others are ready to hear their stories and parables about life, their storytelling gifts can entertain and inspire, and they can teach others through the wisdom they've gained from their life experiences. That wisdom is always something that occurs in hindsight when the experience is complete. People with this channel have a curiosity that compels them to seek stimulation and explore new ideas that are inspiring. They're on a search to collect experiences through which to explore and reflect on life. Keep in mind that this channel is about searching rather than finding or reaching a goal. It's about reflecting and finding meaning in discoveries from past experiences that can then be shared with others. Gate 11 is a Promethean gate. And the most important thing to understand about the godheads, generally speaking, is that they're the remnants of the conditioning from our seven-centered life. At that time in history, as a seven-centered being, we were meant to be influenced and conditioned by external forces. All right, so the godheads are part of the personality crystal manipulation program, if you will. It's a background frequency that permeates and potentially influences the individual to act from their conditioning, right, resulting in a not-self life. And the primary place to look for the most significant Godhead influence is in your personality sun. When the sun is in gate 11, it's under the programming influence of Prometheus. And in Greek mythology, Prometheus is referred to as the god of fire and is best known for defying the Olympian gods by stealing fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology and knowledge. He's also credited with the creation of humanity and civilization from clay. Essentially, Prometheus, right, in this human design context, is about the passion of the male psyche. These four Promethean gates work together to channel the fire and passion of the male psyche into creating or destroying civilization in the name of ideals that claim to offer peace, though often through the binary path of war. And ultimately, what's being fought for are the beliefs, ideals, and rituals that are considered to be correct for society. Ra talks about Prometheus being the program's cleansing program. You know, it can contribute to depopulation through war. So let's take a look at each of these gates and how they contribute to the building, destruction, and cleansing of civilization. With gate 11, 11 creates the ideas and ideals on how to create peace. It contributes to the construction of belief systems when paired with its harmonic, gate 56. With gate 5, 5 supplies the rituals that the ideals and beliefs are to operate by. You know, those rituals are informed by the harmonic gate 15, the love of humanity or not. What are these rituals really centered around? Gate 26 is prepared to fight for peace. It's the salesman that can turn into a soldier. It will start with slick rhetoric and salesmanship, and if that fails, it can escalate into violence. Often violence fueled by denial, as it's a gate of denial, and petty egoic defensiveness. 26 promotes the ideals, then proselytizes and forces participation in the rituals and habits that are deemed to be ideal and correct for civilization. Gate 9 represents the knowledge that Prometheus gave to help build civilization. Consider how gate 9 is part of the cross of planning that we're all in right now, which resulted in tremendous scientific advances. Gate 9 also creates the focus on the pattern and rituals that create embodiment of the ideals and belief systems engendered by 11 and 56. This is the step-by-step focus and energy to concentrate on the details that build the rituals and ideologies that promise peace for society. So let's look at some of the most important other gates in the wheel that 11 has a relationship to and how tracking them can help deepen our understanding and analysis. So we can enrich our understanding of gate 11 and deepen our analysis when it's in a design by factoring in its polarity, right? Polarities provide creative tension. You know, this is why our incarnation cross is 2 sets of polarities, right? And if it's helpful, consider that polarities are squares astrologically. Ultimately, purpose can only be fulfilled through an inner tension. It's that inner tension that provides the creative force to shed our conditioning, become what we are, and embody our purpose. So gate 11's polarity on the wheel is gate 12, standstill, the gate of caution. So what can we make of the relationship between these 2 gates? Well, war and peace are often exercised with caution, or in the binary, the abandonment of all caution, right? So is it worth going into war? Or do we need war for some purpose? You know, the powers that be can be cautious about going into war or cautious about leaving war, right? As war is a profitable industry and serves many cultural and financial functions. Of course, we've also seen in human history rash, cautionless acts of war. So caution or not, right, is always a part of the theme of war and peace. Above the line, it says, meaning the overarching line for gate 11, it says a harmonic condition in the individual or society that permits assessment before renewed action. In other words, ideas generate the possibility for cautious examination. They're not necessarily something to act on. Or consider the first line of gate 12 is called the monk. As we know, a monk lives according to his ideals. And the fourth line of gate 12 is called the prophet. And what does a prophet do? Well, the prophet tells his or her disciples which ideas to believe in, which make life meaningful, which transmit the light and give us hope for the future. So these are just a few of the insights that you can extract from considering the polarity relationship. Mirrors are parallels in the body graph between the right and left sides, right? And mirror gates have similar themes. With gate 11 and 17, we have mirror teachers. Gate 11 teaches from a place of ideals and ideas and beliefs based on what's been experienced in the past, personally and collectively, right? It's the belief system teacher, right? Gate 17 teaches not from beliefs and ideas, but facts that can be substantiated and logically supported to demonstrate patterns that are reliable to secure our future. In the line companion, Ra talks about the move from the Aquarian teacher, the prophet represented by gate 11, line 4, to the Piscean teacher, right? The prophet represented by gate 11, line 4, to the Aquarian teacher, symbolized by the 17, line 4, the personnel manager. So this is a more organized, logical, and factually supported teacher than 11. So I'm going to take a little longer on this slide than I usually would in each class, as these concepts may require some preliminary explanation. I'm going to have an orientation class where we kind of define some of these things so that we can just move through it seamlessly throughout the year. So taking a step back, we've got a few different concepts to explore here. The first is when someone has the harmonic gate 56, but not the 11, right? Gate 11 becomes what is called a mental conditioner, or as I like to refer to it, a not self gate, right? And what that means is that the mind becomes preoccupied with having the qualities of the gate or dealing with the themes of the gate, even though it's not designed to. So this typically looks like being overly idealistic or thinking you have ideas that you can do something with. There can also be an attempt of the mind to deal with a fear inherent in gate 11, which has to do with anxiety over darkness. Darkness in all senses of the word, both literally and figuratively. Remember, gate 11 is the gate of white magic, of seeking the light, of idealism, of utopianism, of hope, and the desire for what could be better, right? The fear of darkness that is here is that the past doesn't show the light. Therefore, the future looks grim. And remember, we're talking about the past because gate 11 is in the abstract circuit, which has to do with reflecting on past experiences to find meaning and make sense of them. And so when the fearful mind doesn't see reasons for hope in the past, the mind then thinks there's a need to come up with an idea in order to create hope for the future. When the person with a hanging 56 aligns with strategy and authority and learns that they aren't here to come up with ideas or to be idealistic, they can start to notice other people's good ideas and who in the world has worthwhile ideals. They naturally will meet people with gate 11 and develop wisdom and discernment about who with gate 11 is good for the collective. The not self-expression when someone has the 56 but not the 11 is very similar to the distorted expression of gate 11 as a dormant gate, aka a conditioning receptor. Gates are conditioning receptors when they're hanging, whether dormant or as part of a defined center. It's a conditioning receptor because it's attracting the conditioning from the harmonic gate on the other side, right? In this case, 56, right? So again, mental conditioner is another way to talk about a not self gate. That's when you don't have the gate, but you've got the harmonic gate pointing at it, right? When you do have that gate hanging, whether dormant or part of a defined center, it's a conditioning receptor. It's pulling the mind to be thinking about the other side. So to the extent that the person with the undefined ajna is caught up in the game of trying to be certain, all of the dormant gates in their ajna would operate and express in a distorted way to support that not self coping strategy, right? And ultimately, that coping strategy is trying to deal with the anxiety of being in a world that's uncertain. Now, it's hard to imagine if you have a defined ajna, but if you don't, the fact that almost anything can be debated can feel scary. Now, of course, true safety and security doesn't come from mental certainty like most people think. It comes from being aligned and embodied. It comes from strategy and authority and embodied awareness. But without that awareness, people with an undefined ajna are trying to cope by finding mental solidity where there is none. They so desperately want to be sure. But if they can learn to tolerate that anxiety without trying to fix it, without trying to scratch that itch, without believing the illusion that their mind can find certainty to protect them, then, and only then, their wisdom potential emerges. Then that dormant gate 11 can be useful in their thinking and expression of their outer authority. So if gate 11 is an activation in a defined center, it's still a conditioning receptor, right? Because it preoccupies the mind with a harmonic gate 56 it doesn't have. But when situated in the context of a defined center, it also has a different influence. It flavors the channel or channels that define that center. For example, imagine that someone has the 1762, this channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being, as well as a hanging gate 11. This would mean that they would be factually supporting idealistic opinions and trying to gain acceptance of them. They would want their opinions to justify their pursuit of peace or war. They would want their opinions to give us some hope about the future. So now let's take a look at the incarnation crosses gate 11 is in. So in the position of the personality sun, gate 11 plays a role in several incarnation crosses. What precedes this series of incarnation crosses, right, in the wheel is the juxtaposition cross of the trickster and the left angle cross of confrontation that you can see here represented on the right of the slide. Right on the slide because we're moving counterclockwise around the wheel, right? So as we move, that's what's really preceding it. And there's some interesting questions and contemplations around what does that mean? What are we taking from that? What is really shifting and transitioning here from those crosses to the cross of Eden, the cross of Eden 4 specifically, which could be called the cross of paradise, right? After all, ideas are really beliefs about how you make a better world. They hold the hopeful promise of taking humanity to a peaceful paradise, free of conflict and crisis. People born on this cross have a paradise lost type of situation in childhood, a fall from Eden, if you will. Whether the family went bankrupt or a parent died or they have to move and leave their friends behind, it can look like many different things that rocks their sense of stability in the world. So this crisis experience leaves these people wanting to build a better world as an adult. Remember, gate 11 is influenced by the Promethean energy that contributes to the building of civilization. Now, moving to the juxtaposition cross of ideas, this cross has gate 11, line 4, the teacher, and gate 12, line 4, the prophet. So we have someone who will be very fixed in their way of trying to influence others with their ideas. Unconsciously, we have the love of the body with gate 46 and universal love with gate 25. So the ideas they're trying to influence their network with are underpinned by a love of body and a universal love of all things. This creates the archetype of a guru trying to influence humanity to find a universal love, but doing so in their very fixed way and really only suited to reach a particular network. Therefore, the number of followers may be very small. Ross said, from a scientific point of view, They can be very important in our development of ideas and concepts about the nature of form, which comes from the unconscious 46 in the cross. Finally, moving to the left angle cross of education, left angle cross of education 2 to be specific, this cross reminds everyone about the importance and value of education, that the only way we'll improve the planet is making sure everyone's educated, right? Without education, we can't evolve, right? Everything hinges on that now, because at this point in our human development, in our course of our human development, evolution's mental, right? It's the evolution of consciousness. We're evolving the neocortex. So people on this cross recognize that if you're going to be in the form, the only way to transcend it is through knowledge. It's about providing an education which becomes the foundation for communication with each other, and to develop a communication that goes beyond the primitive exchanges we mostly get caught up in. Right? Ra uses the example of how dumb we can feel when we learn a new language and spend time in a country where that language is native, and you see how limited you are. You know, he says it's a great teacher because it reminds you that your level of articulation and the depth of your vocabulary are the root of your intelligence. Education facilitates both communication, right? Self and interpersonal awareness, and the evolution of consciousness that humanity depends on to find its purpose and heal our collective trauma. So I'm sure you can hear on all that a lot of attempt to change civilization, right? To improve, change civilization. So this is where I'll leave off for today. Again, you know, this is just intended to be an example of what each class will be like. We will have several Q&As built into each class. It's not just me teaching, so please don't walk away with that impression. This is just a solo demo. And the other big component of the class will be the private Facebook group or Discord channel where I'll provide regular prompts and contemplations on each gate, and where you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and share and reflect on either your experience of having a particular gate, or to talk about the conditioning effects of that gate in the transit field. So as I said at the outset, learning about the gates is a long-term experiential and, you know, contemplative process. I personally benefited from giving myself a regular practice and container for that over the course of a year, you know, back in 2018. And I trust that it can help many others too, you know, whether you're looking to improve your skills as an analyst or just have a deeper understanding of what the human design system reveals about human nature and the patterns of life. So class starts on February 6th when the sun is in gate 13. Don't hesitate to contact me through my website or via direct message if you have any questions at all about the course. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in class.